You can see my hands more now.
Yeah.
My hands are more visible. You can see them. Now you can't. Now you can see them. Now you can't. Now you can see them. Now you can't.
What's happening, party people? Welcome to Punchboard Party. My name is Daniel. This is Father Greg. And I got a little extra shelf so we can sort of spread out a little bit so you can see more of our hands. You see the table? No, you can't. Oh, wow.
You can't see it. I can see your hand. This.
Alright, party people, we are doing our best of the month for July. Father Greg just got off a canoe trip. I went on a canoe trip last year, did not go this year. Pretty grateful after the stories you've been telling me.
No, it's great. Super. Feet are pain, but it's all good. It's great.
And you know what? He's not smelling too bad. Fresh as a daisy.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
Just a fresh change of clothes, man. Does wonders.
Alright, so you know the drill. We are going to talk about all the board games that we played in the month of July, and at the end of the video, we are going to tell you what our favorite board game for the month of July was. So, down in the comments below, party people, please let us know what you've been playing in the month of July, and what your favorite from the month of July was. Alright, so right out of the gate in the month of July, I played a game of Strike. I was over at a friend's house, and it was a family kind of gathering. Like, people were in for the beginning of summer, and so there was a bunch of kind of kids around, and so I thought, hey, I can get Strike to the table. And so quite young kids were there, and so they were able to play and have a good time, and just a nice little game of Strike to get everything going. Still love this simple dice game. It's thrilling every time. I still feel like I have agency over the rolls of the dice. Even though that couldn't possibly be true.
But anyways.
It's fun anyways.
That's right.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. I played a game of Hanamikoji. I've played this a number of times already. At least recently, in the past couple months. But yeah, played this with Mary, and I think she beat me this time.
She beat you!
Yeah, I think so. I think...
Because she was getting all up in arms that she was losing to Dallas over and over.
That's right.
So she has to bring you over to get a victory.
That's, well, you know, I'm glad I help out somebody in the hobby. Hanamikoji, great game.
Awesome. Keeping in mind the family setting I was in, we played Skull. So again, this nice little bluffing deduction game where you got these coasters, trying to guess how many flowers you can flip up without flipping over a skull. I can get 3. Well, I can get 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's a skull.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Yeah, there's a lot of very, very simple game. You could make this game at home if you wanted to.
Yes, that's true.
You could, just take some coasters.
With your grandma's coasters.
That's right. Or things you get at a bar or whatever, Next up, I played my second game of Radis.
Radis. Big box!
The big box, which is a normal-sized box which just contains expansions, which I like. Yeah. It's like it was a small box, I presume, before.
Yeah, I think it was a strange shape.
Yeah. Anyways, it is a good game. I still haven't played with any of the expansions yet. I'm anxious to kind of maybe work some of the, expansions into it to see how that changes. Because there is quite a bit of, it's a bit like, there's 9 cards, and there's a witch, and a noble, a king.
Oh, like Citadels?
Citadels, yes.
Okay.
So it's a bit like Citadels in that regard, where, there are a lot of different ways you can interchange those cards and create kind of a different feel of a game. Okay. If you substitute out the witch for the assassin, and you substitute out the monk for the bishop or whatever. The same kind of thing. There's always a kind of peasant card, but the peasant could be a peasant, or he could be a baker, or he could be a candlestick maker, or whatever. And so there's a lot of different variability in terms of, at least in the expansions, in terms of how you play that game. So interesting to...
And essentially an area control game?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, area control with a little bit of push your luck. So you kind of gain special abilities, and those special abilities are good. They allow you to put more guys into a region or move guys around regions. But the more special abilities you have, the more likely you're to lose guys to the play. Whereas the most people on the board at the end of the game wins. So.
Okay. So some of the older kids started coming to the table, okay? And they were getting kind of crazy, and one of them had just gotten 7 Wonders. So wanted to get 7 Wonders played. And so we played, I think there were 6 of us playing 7 Wonders. A couple of them were on the younger side. Yep. It was a little bit of a gong show. Not sure if there wasn't cheating. Not sure.
Did you lose to a 7-year-old dad?
I'm not telling. But no, this just brought to light again just how wonderful this game is. But again, how it's sort of, to say it's a family game is a little bit of a misrepresentation. It is it's just a rocky first play or so.
For sure. Yeah, understanding how to play the cards. Like, even I remember teaching my parents this game, and like, they'd be like, "Oh, I can play this card?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, you're producing wood." And it's like, "Oh, really?"
The parents at the table were, again, trying to spend their cards.
Right,
okay.
Like,
it's just like, you have these resource cards, and to get your head around, that just means that every turn you produce 1 wood. Mm-hmm. Oh, so like, I need to pay 2 wood. Do I have it covered? No. You just have 1 wood covered.
That's right.
So that's still tricky. I harp about this all the time. But I love the game so much that I want to just be a little bit more accessible. Mm-hmm. But I think once you get into the rhythm, it's really lovely.
For sure. Next up, I played a game of Azul Summer Pavilion.
Oh, Dallas's favorite.
It is, yes, of the Azuls. Actually, I think because of that, we went through a lot of their top 10s, in this month. So you might see a couple sort of overlaps between either of their top 10s. My one, I love this game. I love all of the Azuls. My one complaint is I find all the Azuls finish too early. Like Azul Summer Pavilion, like you could only ever finish like 1 or 2 flowers, and like that's it. So you always end up with this. You're like, oh, I'm designing a garden, but it's always like at the end of the game, like only a quarter finished. And there's always all these holes, and you're designing
this ain't no garden.
That's why you're designing a bathroom, and you're like, okay, you got a quarter way through. Congratulations, you won. And you're like, I did.
This doesn't look like I
built some stained glasses windows, but I only built half of it. What's happening with the other half?
A stained glass toilet?
That's right. But it is still a good game. I will forever enjoy playing Azul.
Okay, things quieted down a little bit. Some people went outside. Some people were doing something else. Again, this visit had a lot of gaming.
Okay.
This is a lot. But we played a little short card game, Marvel Mayhem. So this is an extension of Dungeon Mayhem. So it's a D&D brand, but really cartoony, really silly art. And this is the Marvel edition of this game.
Right.
So this is just in your kind of take that card games, where you have a hand of cards, you're playing damage against other opponents, so you just pick who the damage is going to go to. Everybody has a card that kind of tracks your life, and it's just out of these 3 cards that you have in your hand, you just pick the one that's going to work the best in that moment and hope that you draw up. It's mainly a game of there's cards that will do something and allow you to draw up a new card, and then you draw a card at the end of your turn anyway. So it's basically a game of just trying to get as many cards as you can with what you got into your hand, so that you have the most options to do the most damage the quickest. It's bad.
Oh.
But it's fun.
Okay.
If you know what I mean?
Yeah, it sounds kind of fun. I mean...
but it's not there's nothing.
Sure.
There's nothing. So it's not a good game. There's nothing about it that makes me go, ooh, but it's fun to make someone die.
Sure.
Just 4 damage. And then they heal 3, and you're like, oh! But it can go back and forth like that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, Marvel Mayhem. Nothing great, but, if it's in your game bag to start or end the night,
right.
No skin off your teeth.
Easy, quick play.
Yeah.
Well, my next game is a big one, and this is Toledo. So we played another game of Toledo, myself and Father Dan, and this game, man, it is good. It's nice. It's so the main kind of premise of the game is that there's 4 fairs or scoring competitions. So there's 4 different parts of the game where you're going to score. And each time you're scoring for a different thing. Maybe the first time you're scoring for cathedrals, and the second time you're scoring for how many places you visited, and the third time you're scoring for how many resources you have or whatever. But in order to score, you need to have gotten to that city by the time that village scores. Okay. So you're kind of looking at the map and you're like, okay, I need to make it all the way down to Venice by the time this 3rd scoring happens. Otherwise, you don't get any points for that scoring. You completely miss out on that. And maybe it's not something that matters to you. Maybe that's not one of your strategic goals, and so you're like, maybe I haven't built any cathedrals anyways. It's fine. Okay. I don't need to go to that spot, whatever. But generally speaking, you do want to go to all 4 of the spots. I mean, usually you can get at least some points from all 4 of them.
Could you win by only going to 3?
I think you could, but you need to score a lot of points at them. And some, the later scorings tend to be more valuable.
Yes.
So they can rotate. You can score different things each game.
Okay.
But if you miss the first one, maybe it's not as big of a deal. you're only like maybe 7 points back or something like that. But
so you can do this because you've played a lot of them. Like, where does this rank in the T series?
So this is high. This is high for me. Like this, this would be. I certainly like it better than Tabanusi. Maybe better than Tzolk'in. I quite like as well.
Yeah.
Maybe I like this one better than Teotihuacan though.
Okay.
For sure. Like it's between Tzolk'in and Toledo.
Okay, so Toledo is decent.
It is. It's very good. I really enjoy it.
Okay, to finish off that crazy visit, we got a nice big old game played, Dogs of War. I played it at Marion Dallas's just like previously, so
right.
this is like July 1st or 2nd. Like, this is like, want to get it played again. You know what? This was a really good play of it. Everyone was they were into it. Everyone was competing. Like, there wasn't anybody that was really like out of the race.
Right.
This game I found out this month. I played it a couple times, and again, just depending on the play, this can just go sideways. But it still doesn't take away from how much I love this game. I just love it so much. Just the concept of bidding on battles. It's essentially a stock market game where you're kind of putting your influence into certain stocks and trying to get them out on top and then like doubling down on them. But mixed with a worker placement situation where the things that you want to get might not be on the side of the battle that you want to be on. And that's the brilliant tension of Dogs of War.
Nice. There was a time when like you had left, and so like Dogs of War was like not something that I had access to, and I kept seeing it like in a used, like in a Dragon's Den, like it was there for a long time. I don't think it's there anymore.
No.
But there was like many times where I would walk by, like, I wonder if I should buy that game. I never did.
You should have. Totally. Hard to get now. Get now.
So the next game that I played, well, me and Marion Dallas, and you invited Dan as well over, so we had a game with even more people at this game. But then when it was all over, he'll tell about that game later on. After that game was all over, they were all going home, and then just as I was walking out the door, they were like, "Hey, do you want to play another game?"
Because you were supposed to be coming to my house to record our last Pest of the Month because we were late on that.
That's
just
right.
like we're late on this one because you can't get your calendar right. And they called you back in.
That's right. They were like, Dan was like, "Well, it'll take me 15 minutes to set up." And so we were like, well, we'll play in 15 minutes. And we played Magic Maze.
Wow. I'm surprised that got played in 15 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, so...
It wasn't 15 minutes. He was dragging his hiney.
Okay, so it maybe took a little while to explain because I kind of forgot some of the, but it's a pretty simple game. It's a cooperative game, but it has a timer. Now there are ways you can, reset the timer if you, make it to certain spots, but... just an interesting kind of quick cooperative game, but where you can't talk. No. And the only way you can tell somebody else what they should do is to put this red pawn in front of them. And the more furious you get, you start tapping it in front of them.
Oh, gosh.
Dan.
It gives you PTSD just thinking about it. I played this game once, and that was my experience. I just couldn't clue into what I was supposed to do. And Sen was just like... I was like... I don't know. I wanted to punch him in the face.
That's right.
But everyone has a direction that they can move any of the pawns.
That's right.
So, you need people who can go left to move the pawn that you're trying to move left. If you need to go left. And, so you're navigating this mall. It's a maze, but not
it's almost like passive-aggressive game because it's completely silent, but you're obviously just waiting around looking at you
yes.
So when are you going to move this guy up?
So you're the idiot that's making us lose this game.
That's right. So you feel you're what do you want me to do? Oh yeah, right, I can move up escalators. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, I forgot about that.
That's right. My bad. Okay, got over to Dave's house. Played a really awesome game. This is top shelf.
Wow.
Francis Drake.
Okay,
have you played Francis Drake?
No, I've never played
so
it.
Francis Drake is a game of 2 parts. I think there's 3 rounds, and each round has 2 phases, essentially. where you have the dock, and the dock is a bunch of action selection or sort of worker placement spaces, but it's that ratcheting mechanism, right? Where you can go as far as you want down the path, down the dock. Where you land, you're going to get those resources or whatever. But then, like, you're blocking spaces from other people to get, and, you know, so you're just moving your discs up and around, and you're collecting things like troops or kind of goods that you can sell, cannons, like, there's different things. So, and then the second half of the game, of each phase, takes place on this big ocean, right? So there's these, like, fortifications down at the bottom of the map, and there's these, like, big, like, galleons, battleships out in the open sea, and so then there's like these ports where you can like sell your goods and stuff. So there's essentially 3 different resources that you're going to be using in different ways to get victory points. And so as you're going around the dock in the first phase, you're kind of planning out what you're going to want to do in your second phase. So it got a slight programming feel, where if in the second phase you don't get to go to where you want to go with the resources that you got specifically for those spots, then it gets a little tricky. There's lots of cool things going on, so I just love this tension of, oh, I hope I can get what I get to execute the plan I want to execute. And then you get there and you're like, oh, I hope I can execute the plan I want to execute. So it's this really awesome double phase of this, like, you would like love it and hate it.
Yeah,
because you would be like, I know exactly what I want to do, but I don't know if I can do it. Like
that would frustrate me.
It has that in spades. But beautiful board and designed by the Royals designer.
Ooh,
yeah. So really, really sweet.
Cool. Yeah. No, I do have to get that one played. Next game I played is Sagrada.
Oh, nice.
So I brought out Sagrada with Mary and Dallas, and we played this game together many, many times, but they've never played any of the expansions. So I think we played with the Life expansion, the second of the 3 expansions. And so it has these little orange dice that have like arrows and stuff, and if you have like the same dice on both sides, like if you have a purple 6 on both sides of the dice or whatever, then you score 5 points or 10 points or something like that.
Okay.
So yeah, just a simple little addition. Hopefully we'll probably play through all of the expansions one at a time. I think it's possible to play with all 3 of them, but that might be a bit
onerous.
There might be a lot going on there, but
that's right.
Yeah, had a good time with it.
Fun. After my second play of Dogs of War, I played a nice game of Abyss. Got Abyss to the table. And
wow, long time.
I love coming back to this game. This is a top tier Bruno Catala game that I will just always promote. So this is like, if you see this somewhere, this is an insta buy. If you don't have this, just get it. I mean, as long as you like a nice light medium Euro. Like if you just like kind of a simple Euro style game, this is just excellent. This is all about just collecting cards of certain color types that you then use to purchase lords, which gets you special abilities and victory points, but they require certain colors of cards to purchase them. And there's a nice little push and pull of the cards that you spend to purchase lords end up building towards your endgame scoring. So you kind of want to keep in mind what you're spending for what and how and the combination. So it's quite simple. 1 of 3 things to do on your turn. There's enough that you're trying to manipulate that it's just a winner every time for me.
This is a game actually that I do want to play again. It's been a long time since I brought Abyss to the table, and I love the art. I love the little you get like keys, and you buy like your own like locations that kind of match the colors of cards that you have, you know.
Yes.
Just a fun kind of underwater theme delight. Next up, I went to Father Dan's and we played another game of Obsession. So a little Victorian England
That's right.
manor on the, old-fashioned manor. And
when I think Father Greg, I think Victorian England. I think Downton Abbey.
I know, it's just fun. It's like, this game always gives me a delight. And I used to think that, I still do think that there's like these courtship phases that happen periodically throughout the game.
Oh, yeah.
Whereby you're aiming for like the most of something, like the most green tiles or the most purple tiles or the most red tiles or whatever. And if you get them, you get to woo like the man or the woman, whichever one you want, and you take this like kind of powerful card in your hand that's yours until the next courtship phase. And they're like really good cards. And I was like kind of like, whoever gets those is bound to win, right? But I think, if I remember correctly, that whoever won the majority of the courtship phases did not win the game. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised. I was like, that might be kind of like a way to kind of break this game. But it was, at least it was very balanced in the end. Kind of came down pretty close. So
I'm baffled by just how many cards you can have in your hand.
Yeah.
In this game. Just you're juggling so much.
Lots of cards, but then half of the cards, need other people, right? You need a butler to play this person. You need a lady in waiting to play this person, and really fun game of Obsession.
It's a good game. We went and watched some AEW.
Wow, did we ever?
That was fun.
It was.
And then so Dallas, Father Greg, and I, we went to the show, and then we came back and we played Books of Time. So I've been trying to get my head around Books of Time and what I think about it.
Okay.
I'm pretty uncertain about Books of Time. It's a bit of a mess. I think. So there's some really good concepts here. So try not to be too long-winded about it, but basically you have 3 books and the cards have holes in them, like hole punches, that you can put them in these little binders. Like there's these actual binder rings that you clamp open and put these cards in. And then all the actions pertain to your books. So one of the actions, for instance, you can activate the 2 pages that are open in a single book, and then you flip the page in the book. Or maybe you can flip all the pages in one book back all the way at the beginning of the book and get all the little bonuses that are available there. And so basically this game is a resource trading game where you're collecting these resources, trading them in for those resources, trading them in for victory points, trading them in for whatever else. And the cards in your books are acting as these engines. And then there's a whole other aspect of set collection where there's symbols on the cards that you're trying to collect different symbols of or the same symbols of. And then there's this wonderful, my favorite part of the game, I forget what they call it, like the development track or the progress track, maybe civilization track, anyway. But there's a track that gives you all sorts of little bonuses. Like if you get to this space, it's as if you have another symbol in that set that you were going for. Or so there's some really clever mechanisms at play, and the engine building does work really well. It's a little bit, the turns are kind of micro turns. There's never this kind of, like, I'm going to flip these pages of the book and get all these things. Like, the best you can do is activate the 2 open pages. And it's good in context to everything else you can do, but it's still, like, there was nothing in the game that gave me that, like, I'm on a roll now feel.
Right.
It's just everything's incremental. And that's fine. It all builds up to a nice whole and a nice crescendo. And I've enjoyed every play. I'll play it again. The turns are kind of very incremental. And the turns seem short and small, but the game still drags for some reason. I'm not sure like what it is. But I'll say you can still get a little AP. Even though it's kind of... Anyway, I'm curious as to what you thought. I think you had a more positive view of it than maybe I did.
So I did enjoy this game. I think this game, for me, stands as, like... When they talk about, like, the most innovative game of the year, or, like, games that just do something different. Like, when you started setting out books and binders, I was like, what the heck is going on? And this idea, like, you're physically, like, adding pages to a book that you're, like, flipping through. I was like, that's cool. It's a little fiddly. It's a little bit like, kind of like somebody came up with, like a lot of innovative games, they're not usually good on their first attempt. Like it kind of takes someone to come along who's like, that was a really cool mechanism. I'm going to perfect that and like, make it a little bit neater and nicer. But there is something satisfying about it. Just like adding... Just the history, like I enjoy history, and so there's kind of like just the historical flair of adding different pages. Like each page has like a different whatever inventor or a time in history, a development in science, something like that. That you're like adding to your little book. I did enjoy. I found the theme was pretty crunchy. Like you say, it's not an engine builder in the sense that, like some engine games where it's like, I play one card and that amounts to me getting 18 tons of resources.
That's right.
Because this happens. It's like, I got 5 coal.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. So the next game I played was Air, Land, and Sea. Popped this one out. Actually, this was at a pre-sports day.
Oh, fun.
The priests got together, and while there was just me and Father Greg Smith-Windsor sitting at a table, and I said, why don't we play a little game of Air, Land, and Sea? And I beat his butt because he didn't know what he was doing. But
whenever GSW doesn't know what he's doing, you take advantage. Advantage hard.
But yeah, it was a bit of a chaotic environment. Like it was like in a big hall full of other guys, chatting. It was just kind of a casual, hey, let's just play this to kind of pass the time and chit chat and so on. But it was I like Air, Land, and Sea. That's
sweet. This game is going to be a divisive game. Some people are going to think this is nothing more than a stupid luckfest activity. Some people are going to think that this is one of the best deck builders they've ever played in their life. And this is Challengers. Okay, so Challengers, I love it. I love Challengers. And so basically what you got in Challengers is you have the game of war mixed with a deck builder. So basically you have your little deck of cards. You go one-on-one against somebody. So I've played a couple 2-player games, which is meh. And then I played a couple 4-player games, which is fun because in the 4-player game, after each round, people rotate around the table and take new spots. So then you're playing one-on-one against a different player and this kind of thing. And every round, the winner of the round gets a trophy, and then those points accumulate. Then after 7 rounds, whoever has the most points and the second most points, they go head-to-head, and the winner of that match is the winner of the game. But the theme is a capture the flag tournament with like pirates, parrots, sharks, giant dogs, I don't know, like dragons. Anyway, crazy theme. But what I love about this is that in between each round, you get to draw a bunch of cards and then build your deck of those cards. So you're only going to add like 1 or 2 cards to your deck each turn, but the amount of cards they give you to choose from is really generous, and there's no cost. It's just like, here's cards, choose some to add to your deck now. And then you're able to crash any cards you want from your deck between each round. So I really, it's the first deck builder that was truly generous in its deck building. Now, it's going towards something pretty simple. Like the game you're actually playing is it is war. You just flip your top card. The other person tries to beat that value. If they can't, they flip another card until they have enough combined value to beat your value. And then they get the flag. And you just keep on going until one person can't play anymore or their bench is full, which means the cards that they've had to discard go to their bench. But there's lots of cool mechanisms. So why I love this game is that there's enough strategy, there's enough deck building where I've been on a bad path and I've been losing my games, and I've been able to ditch some cards, add some cards in, and turn my deck around to be a competitive deck. So there's enough in this that it's not just a pure luck fest, but basically you're going to know whether you're going to want to try this from this explanation or not. You're going to be like, oh, that sounds fun, or that sounds like garbage. And you'll be right.
Mm-hmm.
What was your sense? When we played a 2-player, you and I.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I mean, if you like war, I guess you'll love this game.
There's more to it than that, though.
Yeah, I mean, you're building a deck
and then playing war with it.
Like this can happen in Dominion, yes, where you let's say you have a card that's like, oh, if you have a gold in your hand, gain another gold, and you're like, oh, sweet, that sounds good, and maybe those 2 cards. You never get this card and a gold together.
Right.
Same thing will happen. You'll have a card that's like, if you have a fantasy type card in your deck, this card gets +3 strength, but it has to be on your bench first or whatever. Yes. And well, does that happen? Yeah, probably not. So you're you spend time building your deck, and that's kind of cool. But then the rest of the game, you just flip cards.
Yes.
You flip a card, and then you flip a card, and then you flip a card, and you flip a card, and it's like, oh, you won.
But you're right. And people who are going to tend to think like you, they're going to have that experience. So if you're like, that sounds awful, just don't get it. But if you're kind of like, I like Daniel's optimism, give it a try. Because the abilities and the card synergies and the powers on the cards, they are interesting. they're quite fun and you can do quite a bit with it. So like, for instance, I really, whenever I get the chance, I try and there's a Clairvoyant card, which allows you to go into your deck and put whatever card you want to the top of your deck. So there's things like that make it a bit more dynamic than what you're saying. Where like in the midst of your play, there's ways to manipulate your deck.
It's a weird game.
It is weird. It is weird. For sure.
Cool. The next game I played, so once again on Dallas's top 10 games, was Everdell. Nice. And Mary and Dallas have played Everdell way more times than I ever have. And shockingly so. I've played, I really enjoy Everdell, but I haven't actually played it that many times. But I do have the complete collection, the massive box that is like larger than I am. And so I decided, you know what, let's try one of these out. So we played with Pearlbrook nice. The first time. So we'll probably, over the course of maybe next month, we'll probably get to, maybe a couple of the other ones, and then maybe we'll try one giant game of Everdell. But
you're in expansion mode. You're just trying to get.
Well, I figured if it's his best game of all time, he should, or at least if it's in even his top 10, we should play the whole gamut, and then he can offer his thoughts on all of them, very put together. But I enjoy Pearlbrook. I think Pearlbrook does some neat little things.
Does it add cards?
It does add quite a fair amount of cards. Not a lot, but a little bit. Got some pearls, built some monuments, sent our frog ambassadors out to the sea to visit various denizens out there, and
like you play a side game of Abyss.
That's right. It's exactly. Actually, the pearls look like the pearls in Abyss. I'm pretty sure they're the same.
Yeah.
So
Okay, so this is the big game that Father Greg was talking about that we played. We played a full complement game of Battlestar Galactica.
Wow.
Holy Toledo. So, admittedly, not as big of a beast as I thought. Although all the rules are fairly intuitive, things come together fairly well. But this game suffers, to me, with being more complicated than it is. And what I mean by that is it has a lot of different cards, like a lot of different decks of cards in a lot of different places, with a lot of text on all of the cards. But really, all the text says are very simple things. Like it's like kind of a paragraph that just means move this tracker up a notch or whatever. So it feels more onerous. It's a higher wall than it needs to be just by the way it looks. It's kind of intimidating. It looks intimidating. I flubbed up pretty majorly so again, people are given secret identities, and you might be a Cylon, which is a secret killer robot, or maybe not. And I was a Cylon right off the bat, but then midway through the game, you're dealt out new identity cards. So some people might discover that they are actually a Cylon. And so I got dealt out another Cylon card. And so I kind of stopped the game and was like, wait, I'm already like...
Right.
I didn't get how it worked. I didn't get that. I just kept everything secret, and then I thought that because I was already a Cylon, this should go to somebody else right away. Right. Because then I don't have any teammates. But I didn't realize that there was no action that you spent to slide an identity to someone else to make you their teammate. But despite me flubbing it up, I had a lot of fun turning Tom into a Cylon.
That's right.
He was just like... What? I kept looking at him, and I was like, "You're gonna be a Cylon next turn." He was like, "What? No, like what?" I'm like, "Yep." He just hated it, and I just straight up did it.
Not only did Tom hate you making him a Cylon, Tom hated me.
Yes,
viciously.
Yes,
I tried to, a little role play a little bit, just kind of take on a little character, and I was like the president.
I was like the guy. And they weren't even supposed to be the president. they messed up the seating arrangement. You know what though? Like a really fun game, like with you being silly and with Tom and with the hidden roles. It is a really fun game.
That's right.
Big disadvantage, though, is with that many players, it took a long time to get around the table. So Dallas was really he was getting a little upset that, like, well, what do you want me to do? I've had, like, 3 turns this whole game. So there is that at play. You know what? Like, I went in thinking, am I going to like this more than Shadows over Camelot? Because when I first got into the hobby, those 2 games were often put side by side. And it doesn't touch Shadows over Camelot for me. And that mainly comes from the fact that everything you do in Shadows is all mostly... There are some cards with text, but it's mostly cards with numbers on them, and like getting runs of numbers. It's simpler. It's simpler tasks that you're trying to accomplish. And I find you can get less distracted by what you're trying to accomplish, and if you have what you need to accomplish, and just more into the, you're a traitor stuff. Even though there was a fair share of that, and it was fun. Right. But yeah, liked Battlestar Galactica, didn't love it.
The next game I played, another old classic that had lying around, and I don't know why I hadn't played it, but I decided to bring it out, and that was Biblios.
Oh, nice!
Steve Finn, just...
Doctor! The good doctor!
That's right.
Not the good doctor. Yeah.
Just playing cards, and like, kind of like For Sale, there's like the two phases of the game.
Yeah.
There's like the phase where you get a bunch of cards, and then you proceed to use those cards to buy more cards. And then finally, you line up all your cards in colors, and whoever has like the most powerful cards of the blue gets the blue dice.
Yeah.
And all the dice start at 3, but there's other cards that can manipulate the die values. So maybe I'm going for brown, and then I get another card, and so I raise the value of the brown dice from like a 3 to a 4, or to a 6 or whatever. But then other people can lower your dice or whatever. All sorts of shenanigans. And so just, I don't know. Biblios is just a solid filler game. Steve Finn, just one of his classics.
Yeah, I haven't played this in 100 years, and I'd love to play it again. All right, the kids wanted to play a game, and so Sarah was like, hey, why don't we play Enchanted Plumes with the kids? Because they'll totally understand what's going on.
That's a tough game, yeah.
It was tricky. So we coached the kids through it. It didn't work as well for the kids as we might have thought it might have, but it was still just fun to play a nice little game. It just goes to show that if you're looking for a puzzly, crunchy, light card game, Enchanted Plumes is a great pick.
Right.
It gives you a really nice puzzle and a relatively short play time. It's just a card game. I can't say enough good things.
Next up, I played a game of Fantasy Realms. I have talked about this game many, many times. I think from now on, I would advise a house rule that you just play a longer game. I just think...
The game's really short.
I just think playing to 10 cards with 3 players is too short. 10 discarded cards, that's it.
Yeah.
That doesn't take long to get 10 cards into a discard pile. I'd play up to 15, 20, whatever. Just to see more of the deck, right? Just to get a little bit more chance to, if you're looking for the king or you're looking for something, you have a little bit of opportunity to get it. But at first I was confused when this game was nominated for the Spiel, through 2 years after it came out.
Yeah,
it was just a weird thing because it came out in Germany at a different time than it came out here and whatever. But I was like, that's weird. Well, I don't think I want to play this game. But no, I kind of get it.
Yeah, it's a great game. Great filler. Okay, finally, I've owned this game for 2-3 years. And I finally got to the table. And I have only had played this game on Board Game Arena up until this point. And so I got Tzolk'in played.
Oh my.
So good. So good. So what's excellent, this is a precursor to the T-Series. This really I would describe this as just a beefed up Stone Age. But some people would say, what are you talking about? So bear with me. But basically, it's that you're going out, you're gathering resources, you're using the resources to develop and kind of enhance your technologies, which will, when you go and get resources, you'll get more resources. You're able to move up temple tracks, which will score you points and or resources. So it just has that feel of, I need to get enough stuff to do the things that I want to do and feed my people at the end of each kind of cycle. And, it's the classic, you can't do everything you need to or want to do. You're always feeling a bit restricted. But then, at a certain point in the game, if you can crack the code, the game just opens up and resources kind of start flooding in. And again, if you've heard of this game, you know that the main mechanism is on your turn, you either place workers or take workers off, never both. And when you take workers, you get the resources and the actions and the things from the spaces where you're taking them off from. And they're all on these wheels. And so every turn, after everyone's taken a turn, you turn the big wheel in the center. And so then all of the workers that are on the wheels, they all turn and shift. And now they're on a space that's better. you know. And you can activate spaces when you take a worker off that are before, like if you've passed a space, you can activate the ones before at a cost of corn, but corn is pretty costly. You got to feed your workers, all this kind of stuff. But yeah, this is just a really great puzzle of timing where your workers are. So like the worker that's going to get me a crystal skull, I want that to come off at the same time that my worker over here is at a really high spot on the blue wheel where I can place my crystal skull to get a lot more victory points. So you're really trying to time things out well, and you're kind of like, okay, do I just go up the technology track? So now that when I get a gold, I'm getting 2 gold. Like how early do I want to do that? Or do I want to focus on moving up the technology that gets me more corn whenever I get corn? Like you're always just pushing and pulling, and really, really excellent.
I was told to hate this game because somebody played it with somebody who was very AP prone.
Yeah,
I said it was like one of the worst experiences of his life. But I think I would enjoy this game.
Yes.
I'm sure I would love to get it to the table.
Yeah, it's very good.
Speaking of old board games, this is just a month to bring out some old classics. So we had a few new priests kind of arrive in our deanery, and so a new guy, brand new to board gaming, was coming over together with Father Dan and Father Santos, who's also new. And so I was like, oh, what do I play? And I knew that kind of the East Indians tend to like abstract strategy games. So I pulled out this old classic by Reiner Knizia, and that's Ingenious.
Wow!
And so Ingenious is just a simple game where you have like kind of hexagonal domino tiles.
Okay.
So they're like a hexagon next to a hexagon, and you place it on the board. There's different colors and shapes, and basically if you place a yellow, you score for all the yellow that is in any of the 5 like things that point out from that space. And so you're just like trying to put your yellow into a spot where you can get a lot of yellows and all of the different lines, and you move up on this track. And it's the thing where you score your lowest. So like of the 6 colors, you're going to move them up all kind of equally.
Yes.
But if you move up yellow beyond, or you move up any one of the colors beyond 20, you get like a free turn. Okay. So you can so even if you do really heavily invest in red, you'll like get to lay another tile, and so then you lay another yellow tile, and that puts your yellow over the edge, and so you get another yellow tile, and that lets you move up brown, which you haven't done anything with this whole game, and stuff like that. So just a really excellent abstract strategy introductory level game. Like, it's kind of his first experience.
Did he have fun?
He did, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So anxious to,
that's what we're going for.
To play more of that. Yeah. It was good.
So Sarah was kind of pushing for a game. And so we played Cartographers.
Whoa.
Really lovely flipping right.
Mm-hmm.
I just, it is an amazing game. We played it after we played a round of challengers, and Sarah was like, hey, let's play Cartographers. And we there was 4 of us, and so we played. And again, the scoring system of each round, there's 4 ways to score throughout the entire game. But then each round, you're only going to score 2 of the ways at the end of the round. And so that kind of rotates through, and you're working towards something, and then all of a sudden, you're never going to score that thing again. But yes, I love the scoring in Cartographers, and I just... It's really fun and lovely, and plays really smooth. I still have a bit of an aversion to flip and right, roll and right, just like having a pencil and marking on my games. I'm still just kind of, but they're solid. There's some really solid ones, and this is in that camp.
Cool. Cartographers is fun. This month I played 2 games of Silk.
Nice.
So this is the Devere kind of game. It looks really weird. The silkworms have like bunch of eyes on them and stuff like that. It's kind of like based in reality, but with like mythical Japanese creatures involved. So it's like an alternate, it's kind of like mythology and reality kind of combining together. Anyways, we played a first game of this with Mary and Dallas. Did not go well at all. Then we played a second game because I thought it merited a second play, and the second play was substantially better. I think it's a bit like maybe even like what you were talking about with Marvel, whatever you were talking about or whatever, or like Root. I would put in this kind of case where like you do need to kind of like know who's in the lead and who's most dangerous to you.
Okay.
Because you're trying to accomplish your own goals, but you're also trying to like stop other people.
Yes.
And you need to kind of like see 3 turns down the road and see what your opponent is going to do and be able to stop them rather than just like, even if you're like, oh, well, I was just kind of building my own little silkworm farm over here. Meanwhile, I'm like sending around the demon guy who's like eating all your silkworms and like, you know, like, and I'm trying to like stop both players, and I'm like, Dallas, you need to stop Mary, like, you know, and like it's like, well, I can't, like, it's too late now. I can't get my dog over there enough in time or whatever, right? So there's like all these different sort of things, but there is this kind of like, I don't know, it's almost like a rock paper scissors of movement where it's like your silkworms, they don't bump anything, but it's like you have a silkworms. There's this like Japanese god demon thing that eats silkworms. Okay. You've got a dog and you got like a shepherd. Okay. And so it's like the dog scares away the demon, but the demon scares away the shepherd, but the shepherd can move the dog, and nothing moves the silkworms. But if the dog or any of the guys go onto the silkworms, they like bump the silkworms off. So you're like, you move onto a tile, and then you send all the silkworms to different spots, and then, or like you move the shepherd onto the dog tile, the dog moves onto the demon tile, the demon moves onto the other tile and eats a bunch of silkworms. So there's kind of like a little bit of like a, you know, a kind of.
It sounds like a nightmare.
It's a weird game. It's not normal in any sense of the word, and so it's a bit counterintuitive. It's a bit difficult to grasp where should I put my guys, like especially like, you know, when you're setting up a game. But you need to explain the rules before you set up the game, because part of the setup of the game involves, hey, put your guys on the map. It's like, where do I want to put them? Right. I'll explain once you've set up the game, because that'll help serve as an illustration. Yeah. You know? And so, yeah, it just takes, I think, a few learning plays to kind of get an idea of, like, how do I judge who's going to, oh, I see, that person's going to score 9 points? That's actually pretty huge. Okay, I got to stop them. That's like, and I have to see that 2 turns in advance, because I need to... you know, make stuff happen. But yeah, so mixed results, but Ingenious just to give it another shot.
Okay, another heavy hitter for the month. This is Cora, Rise of an Empire. So this came out a couple years ago, and then it kind of was hard to come by, and now it's kind of had a re-release. This is Yellow's expert line. Okay. It's like the first installment in their expert line, and I just saw that they came out with a second installment. I forget what it's called, but anyway. But Cora... this is basically Tracks, the board game, right? Where you have all sorts of tracks. There's 3 tracks on your player board, and then there's 4 or 5 tracks out on kind of the main board. Tracks on the main board and the tracks on your personal player board work slightly differently. The tracks on your personal player board, they correspond to a few of the actions in the game. So this is an action selection. If you have action tiles, you roll some dice, you then correspond the dice to the actions that you want to do. The actions have numbers on them. Your dice have to meet or exceed that number in order for you to do that action. You have citizens, which is one of your tracks on the board, and you can spend citizens equal to the difference to make up for the action. So if you want to do a 5 but you only rolled a 3, you could pay 2 citizens to do that action still. So it gives you nice leeway. You just have to make sure you're still producing citizens or else you're kind of hooped. It's really difficult to explain how fun this game is. Because yes, it is just moving up tracks, but the synergies between all the tracks work so smoothly. Really where this game comes to life for me is there's these things called politics cards. And they're the things that kind of create the variability between... we already have variable player powers to begin with, and then these cards, we draft these cards at the beginning of the game, and then this gives us a whole bunch of other ways to score at the end of the game, or ongoing abilities that kind of break the rules of the game as we play, or just one-time bonus benefits. But you're only playing 9 rounds. That's the kicker in this game. You're only playing 9 rounds. One of the actions is to play a card, so you're only ever going to play 9 cards if you use that action every time, which you're not going to do. So then it's just this whole thing of just... efficiency. Just trying to be as efficient as possible. So Sarah and I actually played this last night, and I did the best I've ever done, and she still beat me by 12 points. Wow. and so I got to a point where I did everything that I planned to do, and then I realized that I wasted actions. Like, I still... if I had kind of turned in this direction a little bit, I could have gotten a few more points with this strategy, but I just kind of was like, I'm not going to worry about military. I'm just going to focus on money and culture. And I just went right in. I did well, but just like I could have used a few... there were some wasted actions at the end of the game that I could have honed in on.
Cool. I played a game of Honshu. Just simple card game.
Hey.
Card laying game. It's a drafting cards, and then you play them down, kind of like King Domino. You're just trying to create collections of various territories. I enjoy this one. I haven't played it for a long time. Played it a couple times in quick succession over the past couple months, and it's kind of just reminding me why I keep this game around.
Sweet.
Yeah.
No, I'm interested in how to shoot. Okay, so again, with Dave and Drew, this was the last game I played in the month of July, and this is Stefan Feld's Amerigo. Okay, so this has a cube tower.
Okay.
With all sorts of different colored cubes. You kind of set the cube tower, and so there's cubes all hanging in its steps in there. Then there's this rondel with different actions, and then the cubes that correspond to the color of that action. And then a round consists of taking cubes from each of the spaces, one at a time, throwing them in the cube tower, and then some cubes roll out. And then the cool thing is that you get to choose any of the actions of the colors that are represented that came out of the cube tower. And then you get to do that action at a power as the number of the most cubes that came out. Okay? And so you just do that for, I forget however many actions there are, 6 or actions. You do that, and that's a round. And then you do that 5 times, and the game's done. And basically what you're doing is you have polyomino pieces that you're using to populate these islands on this map. You're sailing your ships around to get to docks on these islands. If an island fills up with polyomino pieces completely, then it scores based on how many of your ships you have at its ports and different things like this. There's some really cool things going on. And so what I really love about this game is just when at a certain action, you're not actually restricted to that action. So but you're restricted to how the cubes come out. And so you're pretty much guaranteed to get that action on that action's turn because you're taking like 5 of those cubes and shooting them down the tower. So one of them is probably going to come out. So you'll probably be able to do that action. But then you might be able to do the action you need to do on a different action space. So it's like, do I do it now or do we do it later? What do I want to do there? There's not like an economy like there is in a lot of strategy games where you have to kind of save up and pay for. So like there's building tiles. There's the polyomino tiles that you're building onto islands. You don't have to pay for them. You get a certain amount of power to purchase tiles based on how many cubes of the most color came out. And as long as there's a green or a red, then you get to develop, or build or whatever. And I love that. It brings a tactical nature. There is strategy here for sure, but it brings this tactical nature of I don't have to worry about kind of saving my money up for a thing. I'm just going to hope that when a pretty plentiful development action comes up, I'll just use that to get some things. This is delightful. I just loved this game. I did quite well. It was helpful to do well, but yeah, you're just like, I hope I can get my cannons up because at the end of each round, pirates come and you gotta fight them. And if you can't, you lose a bunch of points. And I should sail now. Oh, I gotta fill this.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, fun game.
Anytime you can beat,
it's an accomplishment.
Dave and Drew, yeah,
it's an accomplishment
for sure. Well, my last of the month was a game called Unearth, which I played once before. This was the second time playing it. This is a weird game. Basically, you've got these cards, and you've got dice. You've got 1d8, like 3 or 4 d6s, and a d4. Yeah. And each card has like a breaking point. So if all of the dice on that card add up to that value or more, then whoever has the most value dice on that gets that card. And that card will contribute to points based on its color, like you're trying to collect sets, but also trying to diversify, get one of each, and different things like that. And there's different cards that you can play to increase your die values or to re-roll dice or whatever. But there's also this thing where, like, if you roll like a 3 or less, you get something. Like, you get this kind of bonus because it's like, because you'll say, like, I'm rolling for this card, like, and you'll roll a 3, which is not very good because it means you're probably not going to get that card. You haven't contributed much to the power on this card, but you'll get this bonus, and sometimes like that bonus is like pretty good, and so like that bonus also scores you points in a kind of a completely sort of different way. And so sometimes there's like reasons to like, if you roll a 4, you're actually more sad because like you didn't do that well and you didn't get the bonus.
That's right. That's right.
So it's like sometimes you like want to like lower your dice by 1 just to, so you can get that bonus and at least end up with something good. So it's a lucky game. Of course, you're rolling dice. You're just trying to collect sets of cards. It's pretty fun. I wouldn't call it a great game, but
it works.
Yeah, it works.
All right, party people, there we have it. Those are all the games we played in the month of July. Pretty good month. Lots of fun stuff played here. So now, party people, let us know again what you played down in the comments down below. Let us know what your favorite game is. Father Greg, what is the best board game you played in the month of July?
I think this month would be Toledo. I really enjoyed the play of Toledo, for
That's sweet. That's sweet. Yeah, for me, Cora, Tzolk'in, Amerigo, Francis Drake, those are all contenders
you had a
for
big
best
month.
of the month. Like, those are, so good. But Tzolk'in is going to win. Tzolk'in is going to win the best of the month. It is just slick. It is such a good game. And, like, again, an older title, stands the test of time. Really, really great.
Cool.
So, party people, let us know if you like this video by pressing the like button, by subscribing to the channel if you haven't already, sharing this video, say, I like these guys. Just give us, send us out there, see what happens. And until next time, party people,
have the best day.